Hello everyone, it's time for another edition of Mr. E's Paint.net tutorials, starring me, Mr. E. Episode 2, A Blank Slate. When you first open Paint.net, it will probably look a lot like this. You may already have an image up in this field here, or you might not. The toolboxes may already be open, or they might not. So that's where we'll start. We're going to go up here to File, and select New. Just accept the default settings that it gives you, and press OK. This area here is basically your palette, your canvas, if you will. This is where you'll do all your creating. If you haven't already, you might want to pause this video for a moment and actually open your copy of Paint.net and kind of follow along with the tutorial. Now, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see some little icons. These are your various tools. One with the hammer is your toolbox. You can see it opened on screen. One with the clock is your history. The one with the layers of pages is your layers. I'm going to warn you all right now, I'm going to bore you with layers. I'm big on layers, and after you see how they can save you a lot of headaches, you'll understand why. And the last icon is your color palette. Now, these boxes are not static. They don't have to be where they are. You don't have to leave them there. If they get in your way, feel free to move them across the screen. Maybe you're working over on this side and you don't want them in the way. History is one I don't use a lot, so sometimes I'll just keep it closed. Toolbox, I try and keep as handy as I possibly can. I move it, I float it all around the screen as I'm working with it. Colors comes and goes. It depends on what I'm doing, how many different colors I'm going to use. Each of these toolboxes I'll eventually have their own tutorial on. Now we're going to move to the lower right-hand corner of the screen, down here. These are your magnification tools. You can just zoom in and out, and this one here will get you back to the normal size. This little box here, if you click on it, you can change your ruler measurements between pixels and inches and centimeters. There are times I work in pixels, there are times I work in inches. I'm not really big on the metric system, so I don't use centimeters a lot, but feel free to. Everybody has their unit of measure. Now this number down here, this is your last known cursor position on the screen. You can see as I move the cursor around above it, tells you where it last was. And why do you want to know your last cursor position on the screen? Well, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Sorry. There are times that will come in handy. The next number to the left of that, that's your palette size. 800 by 600 was what I started with. Yours may vary. You'll see over here on the left side, there's a ruler bar, and along the top, a ruler bar. Those are set to pixels, which is what we had it set at. There's also a reminder right here. PX tells you it's pixels. Up above that, you're going to see the current tool you're working with and the current effects that you can apply to it. We'll get into more of that as the tutorials go on. These icons should kind of look familiar to you. There's a new project, there's open a file, save a file, and so on. Your cut, your paste. These two buttons right here, you're going to learn to love. Your undo and redo button. You'll be using those a lot. Let's take for example that maybe you just had some extra time to kill and you created this nice little picture just, off the top of your head. You're quite talented. I could see you doing this. And you were just going to touch up a couple little last things for a little shading, and you kind of made a mistake and you didn't know what you were doing, and you just, oh, crap. You just think that you ruined the whole thing, don't you? Well, no, that's where the undo button will become your best friend. Boom, gone. But anyway, here you have some other ruler tools. Lastly, you have some drop-down menus. A lot of these will be familiar to you. Some of them just repeat some of the things we've gone over. There's a lot of redundancy built in, so you can do the same thing different ways in Paint.net. And of course, layers. I love layers, and you'll know why. Now here, you'll see with my adjustments, as well as with my effects, there's a lot going on here. That's because I've downloaded what are called plugins. We'll get into plugins in a whole separate video, But you can see why I'm going to take this tutorial a step at a time. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of ways you can tweak your creations. Most of these I have used at one time or another. Some of these will do very specific tasks when you click on them. Some of them will give you a number of options, maybe color or size, those types of things. Some you'll use a lot, and some you may never use at all. It all depends on your project. Okay, so that's the introduction to getting your palette set up, your canvas, your creative mind, which is blank right now. Don't mean to insult you, but your creative mind is blank right now. In the next episode, we're going to play with the Toolbox and explain what some of those things do. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Mysteries Tutorials.